Okay, I'm back with this one. So yeah, I'm just capping up this series by saying that I'm pointing out some of the different methods of treatment, but also the access to opportunities and prosperity that can be a function of different levels of perceiving a person. Some of which having and not having to do with ethnicity or just social acceptance. And there's different lines and nuance to that, but a person can be can either have esteem, privilege, and favor for being appreciated as being disabled, abled, or overabled. If you take into account like conscription in military or different job work opportunities or work duties, and then also different amenities and advantages. Advantage and disadvantage can be skewed in so many sophisticated ways, even across the lines of disability, what is able-bodiedness and what is disabledness, and both being appreciated as disabled or abled can be can work for a person or against a person in a very honest or disingenuous way that can both physical ableness but also mental ableness. And then also on top of that is in terms of ethnicity and appearance, also sexual viability, because some people would say that some of the favor and esteem that would come from ethnic appearance is a function of how an ethnicity would be generally appreciated as being sexually viable or socially viable, is as it profound as the ethnicity being valued or disrespected in the first place is the social viability of bearing that appearance in society abroad, or the sexual viability, or then through pseudoscience. Now, pseudoscience would affect both ethnicity and disability, because at different times in the past and present, you have people victimized or privileged as a form of pseudoscience. So you think that people of this ethnicity are this or that intelligent, this or that capable, or you think, and that's upon pseudoscience, that's arbitrary scientific standards, which even some of the science part excellence can still be appreciated as arbitrary in many respects, in my opinion, especially from the gray area of studies and statistics. There's a lot of gray area that would make some of the strictest science yet arbitrary. But then when you apply that to human beings, whether in terms of ethnicity or mental capacity or sometimes maybe physical capacity also, like some you maybe when you get into gender, you can also have some pseudoscience there in terms of what a man or woman can or can't do, both physically and intellectually. I had gone through a lot of hell with my with the debit card that I use, associated with the work that I do, the independent work. And each time that happened, 2 times recently within 3 weeks, I went through a lot of assistance from both computer assistants and also mail, online security, and also financial experts on computer mails, and all of them failed me utterly each time I did so. And then I met some 2 pretty girls each time at the end of a whole series of both men and computers, and I got to a couple girls, and they sounded attractive, both of them, but also sweet and kind, and they got to the bottom of my problem instantly. Those 2 girls did. So a lot of people would say that men and women can or can't do this physically and intellectually, and to my experience recently with these phone calls, it had been the sweet little old sexy girls or sexy women that got to the bottom of this BS that I was experiencing rapidly. And just as an example of how arbitrary any form of discrimination is, whether gender, able-bodiedness, or ethnic, especially a term along lines of pseudoscience, and then you compound that with the social values and assumptions that bolster and confirm that, and then you get people who are written off. You have armchair diagnosis, so you have friends and family diagnosing one another on their armchairs with their limited background in the very forms of learning that they're putting against a person, their understanding of psychological terms. But even some of your actual professionals may be similarly limited. Are they really that much of scientists? Did they really go through that much studying to really be full-fledged scientists? Yes, they got the credentials and the networking, but I still beg to differ if they are in fact full-fledged scientists that can hold their own with some of the likes of like your Freud and some of Freud's disciples, that could really hold their own with them, and then therefore be worthy of employing the very terminology that they had coined some of those thinkers onto other people. I don't know if even Freud himself is worthy of dismissing another human being and their potential to experience and enjoy life and do for themselves and others and contribute to themselves and others for all of his brilliance. I don't know that he's worthy to say or do such a thing, but no less than the people who receive bastardized, watered down, amalgamated iterations of his insights, and then they further cherry pick those insights, and they overlook some of the contradictions and the assumptions within his insights, but also the insights that they have amalgamated with his, and how the combination of those different insights would yet confound the one the other, or their aggregate, and then yet be applied to other people. So people are just saying and doing whatever the hell they want, and inflicting that upon other people. In the past, that had been upon religious terms, like saying a person is a sinner, or a person is a wicked, or a devil, or they're making love to the devil at night, or they're flying on a broom, or then you would in dreams, and then burning them because of that, or then now just simply calling someone crazy because some books that you read in some fancy overpriced sensible education and competition for rank and networking. And then now you have the entitlement and but also the social influence to injure people with your diagnosis. But so that there's an actual overlap between discrimination upon lines of gender, ethnicity. Maybe race and ethnicity is interchangeable. There can be distinction between what's considered race and ethnicity, but I think that we are human, so those can yet there's nuance to race and ethnicity also, but within race, ethnicity, gender, and ableness, both physically and intellectually, which may be physical and intellectual is not entirely different. That involves pseudoscience, but then it's also corroborated by the society at large, in terms of the mores and the status quo, and what's cool and what's not, what's hot and what's not, and what's crazy and what's not, and what's brilliant and what's not. Is that, and then at the times past, it had been maybe just in times past you had more homogenous groups. So you had a group where everyone was the same ethnicity, everyone was the same race in a particular region. So therefore, you would still need the extinction, the distinction, and the privilege and advantage, and the skewing. So what you would have to rely on would be their conduct, their moral propriety, their love of God. So you're appreciating how much someone does or doesn't love God, although you're not appreciating that nothing can exist outside of God. So that very person you're condemning and writing off as this or that, not this or that, this or that, they are yet as much of what you're worshiping as as you are burning them, as you are castigating them. The same with these different people being called crazy. You're a human being. You're enjoying the privileges and the entitlement of being a human being, and some of the respect for your physical body and your property that are due to a human being. So you are enjoying being a human, while making another person feel and be treated as by other people, or professionally, or to view themselves and then have the behavior that would draw the treatment of being less than human. You're using your humanness, your entitlement, your rights and privileges as a human to make another person feel and then have the experience of being less than human, and maybe fail to realize their own potential, no less than furthering their own progeny, their own line of heritage and descent upon this earth, is what they're being stripped of by you by you exerting and extending your privilege and entitlement and sense of concept and learning onto another person, your sense of healing medicine onto another person, to yet deprive them of some of their own enjoyment of life and their furtherance of life in the form of their own life and their heritage. When you're calling a person crazy upon this what I would think of as pseudoscience, a lot of this stuff that people's taught, even science, but you take the most fancy medical book you can put your hands on, and I think that there may be something that could be appreciated as pseudoscience in there, or at least something that would be debunked or challenged or bettered by science itself within no less than 10, 20, or 30 years. Even even though you're yet beating that over another person's head, as a person would beat another person over the head with a holy book in the past. Because in the past you didn't have the overt distinctions that you could put on a person, other than their behavior and their conduct, and their allegiance and faith to a higher power, which is yet they themselves, in my estimation, because we are a part of what's higher. And so this is what's going on.